The research ship Stellar Dawn moved slowly through the dark space above the jungle moon. Inside the ship, different alien species worked together to study the strange new world below. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of machines and the occasional click or whistle from the alien crew members as they talked to each other. Dr. Elena Martinez sat at her workstation, looking at the data coming from the planet below. She was the only human on the ship, and she felt excited about what they were finding. The screen showed readings from a creature that was unlike anything they had seen before. The beast was huge, smart, and very dangerous. Elena pushed her brown hair back from her face and leaned closer to the screen. The numbers told a story that made her heart beat faster. This creature was not just another animal. It was something special. Something that could change everything they knew about life in the galaxy. Captain Vexhai walked over to Elena's station. He was tall and thin, with large compound eyes that looked like those of a giant insect. His skin was dark green and shiny, and when he moved, it made soft clicking sounds. The Xanthari species was known for being careful and smart, and Vexhai was one of their best captains. "Dr. Martinez," he said, his voice coming through a translator that made his alien sounds into words Elena could understand. "What do you see?" "Down there?" Elena turned to face him. Even after months of working with aliens, she still found it strange to talk to beings that looked so different from humans. But she had learned to read their body language and understand their ways. "It's incredible, Captain," Elena said, pointing at her screen. "This creature is almost 4 meters long. That's bigger than most Earth bears. But look at these brain scans. It's not just big and strong, it's smart, really smart." Vexhai's compound eyes moved as he looked at the data. In his species, this kind of movement meant worry. "How smart?" he asked. "Smart enough to use tools, smart enough to plan, smart enough to hunt in groups," Elena said. "And Captain, there's something else. It doesn't just hunt for food. The data shows it hunts other intelligent species for fun." The captain's antennae twitched, which Elena knew meant he was scared. The Xanthari had been prey animals long ago in their evolution. Even now, millions of years later, they still felt afraid when they met real predators. Commander Caltheta came over to join them. She was from the Graxian species, and she looked like a tall person made of purple tentacles. Her people had lived in the oceans of their world, and they had also been prey animals. When she moved, her tentacles swayed like seaweed in water. "I have been reading the reports," Caltheta said, her voice soft and musical through the translator. "This creature is what we call an apex predator. It sits at the top of the food chain. Nothing hunts it, but it hunts everything else." Elena nodded. "That's right, and it's not alone down there. Our scans show at least 6 of them in this area. They work together like a pack." Vexhai and Caltheta looked at each other. Elena could see the fear in their movements. To these aliens, an apex predator was like a nightmare come to life. Their species had spent millions of years running and hiding from creatures like this. "We should leave," Caltheta said, her tentacles moving faster. "We should go far away from this place." "But think about what we could learn," Elena said. "This creature could teach us so much about evolution and intelligence. We can't just run away." Before anyone could answer, red lights started flashing all over the ship. A loud alarm filled the air. Elena felt the ship shake and heard the sound of metal groaning. "All crew to stations!" Vexhai shouted, running toward the bridge. "Emergency. Protocols now." Elena followed him along with Caltheta and the other crew members. The bridge was full of flashing lights and alien voices talking fast in languages the translator couldn't keep up with. "Report," Vexhai ordered as he sat in his captain's chair. "Main power coupling has failed," said the ship's engineer, a rocky creature from the Silicar species. "We're losing altitude fast. Emergency landing is our only option." Elena looked at the main screen, which showed the jungle moon getting bigger and bigger as they fell toward it. "Where will we land?" she asked. The engineer checked his instruments. "In the middle of the apex predator's territory," he said. The bridge went quiet except for the sound of alarms. Elena could see the fear on every alien face around her. They were going to crash in the middle of the most dangerous place on the planet. The landing was rough, but not deadly. The ship hit the ground hard, throwing everyone around, but the hull held together. When the shaking stopped, Elena picked herself up and looked around. Most of the crew seemed okay, but she could tell they were all terrified. "Damage report," Vexhai ordered. "Hull is intact," the engineer said. "Life support is working, but our communications array is broken. The external antenna was damaged in the crash. Someone needs to go outside to fix it." Elena felt her stomach drop. Going outside meant leaving the safety of the ship. It meant going into the jungle where the apex predators lived. "Can we fix it from inside?" Colfetta asked. "No," the engineer said. "Someone has to go out there and repair the external components. It will take at least 2 hours. The bridge was quiet again. Elena looked around at the alien faces. She could see that none of them wanted to volunteer. Their evolution had taught them that going into predator territory was the same as choosing to die. "I'll go," Elena said. Everyone turned to look at her. Vexhai's compound eyes went wide. "Dr. Martinez, you cannot be serious. You have seen the data. Those creatures are killers." "Someone has to do it," Elena said. "If we don't fix the communications, we can't call for help. We'll be stuck here forever." "But you are human," Colfetta said, her tentacles waving in distress. "You are small and soft. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no speed. Those creatures will kill you in seconds." Elena stood up and looked at her alien friends. She understood their fear, but she also knew something they didn't. Humans had survived on Earth not because they were the biggest or strongest, but because they were smart and brave and willing to face danger when they had to. "Maybe," Elena said. "But I'm the only one here who's not paralyzed by instinct. You all evolved as prey animals. Every part of your brain is telling you to hide. But humans evolved differently. We learned to face predators, not run from them." She walked over to the equipment locker and started pulling out an environmental suit. "Besides, what choice do we have? We can't just sit here and hope the predators go away." Vexhai tried one more time to stop her. "Dr. Martinez, please. Let us find another way." Elena turned to face him as she put on the suit. "Captain, I appreciate your concern, but this is what humans do. When something needs to be done, we do it, even when it's scary." She picked up a plasma cutter and some repair tools. The plasma cutter was meant for cutting metal, not for fighting, but it was the closest thing to a weapon they had. "I'll be careful," Elena said. "I'll stay alert and move fast. Maybe I'll get lucky and they won't even notice me." But as she said it, Elena knew it wasn't true. According to their scans, the apex predators were smart enough to notice everything in their territory. They would know she was there within minutes of her leaving the ship. As Elena walked toward the airlock, she could hear the alien crew talking behind her in worried voices. They thought she was walking to her death, and maybe she was. But someone had to try, and she was the only one brave enough to do it. Elena took a deep breath and opened the airlock door. The jungle air was hot and humid, full of strange smells and sounds. Somewhere out there, the apex predators were waiting. Elena stepped out of the ship and felt the alien world around her for the first time. The air was thick and warm, like being inside a greenhouse on a summer day. Strange plants glowed with soft blue and green lights all around her. The jungle made sounds she had never heard before. There were clicks and whistles and deep rumbling noises that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Her environmental suit felt heavy on her shoulders, but it was keeping her safe from the alien air. The helmet's display showed her that the atmosphere was mostly safe for humans, but there were gases that could make her sick if she breathed them for too long. Elena looked back at the ship. Through the small windows, she could see the faces of her alien friends watching her. Captain Vexhai was at the main window, his compound eyes reflecting the jungle's strange lights. Next to him, Commander Colfetta's tentacles were moving in the quick, nervous way that meant she was very scared. The communications array was about 50 meters away from the ship. Elena could see it clearly, a tall metal tower with dishes and antennas pointing up at the sky. Some of the antennas were bent, and one of the main dishes had a big crack running through it. It would take time to fix, and she would have to work carefully. Elena started walking toward the array, stepping carefully over the strange plants and around small pools of water that glowed with their own light. The jungle floor was soft under her feet, covered with leaves and moss that felt spongy through her boots. Inside the ship, the aliens watched every step she took. They had instruments that could track her movements and monitor her health. They could see her heart rate, her breathing, and even her stress levels. So far, everything looked normal, but they knew that could change fast. "Contact in Sector 7, said the ship's scanner operator, a small, furry creature from the villain species. "Something big is moving through the trees." Captain Vexhai felt his antennae start to twitch. "How big?" 4 meters, maybe more. It's hard to tell with all the vegetation. On her suit's display, Elena saw a warning light start to flash. Something was out there, watching her. She stopped walking and looked around slowly. The jungle seemed peaceful, but she knew that was just an illusion. Predators were masters at hiding until they were ready to strike. Elena reached the communications array and set down her tools. She looked up at the damaged equipment and started to plan her repairs. The main power coupling needed to be replaced, and 3 of the antenna connections had come loose. It was work she could do, but it would take time. As she started to work, Elena felt like she was being watched. It was a feeling she knew well from her time studying animals on Earth. When a predator was near, something deep in the human brain could sense it, even when the eyes couldn't see it. "Movement confirmed," the scanner operator said inside the ship. "The creature is approximately 30 meters from Dr. Martinez and closing slowly." Commander Colfetta's tentacles started moving faster. In her species, this kind of movement was like a human's hands shaking when they were scared. "We should bring her back now," she said. "No," Captain Vexhai said, though his own fear was clear in the way his compound eyes moved. "She needs more time to complete the repairs. If we bring her back now, we will still be trapped." Elena was working on the first antenna connection when she heard a sound that made her freeze. It was a soft scraping noise, like claws on bark. She had heard similar sounds in the forests of Earth, but this was different, bigger, more deliberate. She turned her head slowly and saw something moving in the trees about 20 meters away. At first, it was just a shadow among the glowing plants. Then she saw part of a leg, thick and muscular, covered in scales that reflected the jungle's strange lights. Elena's heart started beating faster, but she forced herself to stay calm. Panic would only make things worse. She had dealt with dangerous animals before, and the most important thing was to not act like prey. The creature moved again, and this time Elena got a better look at it. The leg was attached to a body that was even bigger than the scans had suggested. The scales were dark green with patterns that helped it blend into the jungle. She could see part of a head with forward-facing eyes, the mark of a predator. "It's beautiful," Elena whispered to herself, and she meant it. The creature was perfectly designed for hunting. Every part of its body was built for killing, from its powerful muscles to its sharp claws to its intelligent eyes. Inside the ship, the aliens heard her comment through the communication system. Captain Vexhai's translator struggled to make sense of what she had said. Beautiful was not a word his species used for apex predators. "Dr. Martinez," he said through the comm system, "please move slowly toward the ship. Do not make any sudden movements." "I can't," Elena said, still working on the antenna. "If I stop now, we'll never get off this planet." "I need more time." The apex predator moved closer. Elena could see more of it now. It was walking on 4 legs, but she could tell it could stand up on 2 if it wanted to. Its head was large and intelligent-looking, with eyes that seemed to study everything they saw. Elena kept working, but she moved more slowly and carefully. She had learned long ago that most predators were more interested in things that ran away from them. If she acted calm and confident, maybe the creature would lose interest. The predator stopped about 10 meters away and just watched her. Elena could feel its eyes on her as she worked. She started talking to herself, partly to stay calm and partly because she had always talked to the animals she studied. "Okay, big guy," she said quietly. I'm just fixing this antenna. I'm not here to hurt you or take your territory. I just need to get this working so my friends and I can leave. The aliens in the ship were amazed by what they were seeing. The apex predator was displaying behavior they had never recorded before. Instead of attacking immediately, it seemed to be studying Elena, trying to understand what she was doing. This is impossible, Commander Coltheta said, her tentacles writhing. With confusion. Apex predators do not hesitate. They attack or they leave. They do not watch. Maybe this one is different, said the scanner operator. Or maybe humans are different, Captain Vexhai said quietly. Elena finished the first repair and moved to the next antenna. The predator moved to, keeping the same distance but changing its angle so it could see what she was doing. Elena noticed this and realized the creature was genuinely curious about her work. You're smart, aren't you? Elena said, glancing at the creature while she worked. You want to know what I'm doing? That's okay. I don't mind an audience. The predator tilted its head, and Elena was amazed to see what looked like genuine intelligence in its eyes. This wasn't just a killing machine. This was a thinking being, trying to understand something new and strange. Elena worked on the second antenna, explaining what she was doing as if the predator could understand her. This connects the power to the transmitter, she said. It's working. It sends signals up to space so other ships can find us. The predator made a soft sound, almost like a question. Elena looked at it and smiled inside her helmet. You really are listening, aren't you? Inside the ship, the aliens watched in growing amazement as the standoff continued. According to everything they knew about apex predators, Elena should have been dead 5 minutes ago. Instead, she seemed to be having a conversation with one of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Her stress levels are actually going down, the medical officer reported. She's becoming more relaxed, not less. Captain Vexhai stared at the screens showing Elena and the predator. In all his years of space travel, he had never seen anything like this. The human was treating an apex predator like it was just another intelligent being, and somehow it was working. Elena moved to the third antenna, and the predator moved with her, always keeping the same careful distance. She was starting to understand that this creature wasn't just hunting her, it was trying to learn from her. The realization filled her with excitement instead of fear. You're not just a predator, Elena said to the creature. You're a scientist, just like me. Elena worked on the third antenna while the apex predator watched her every move. The creature had been standing there for almost 20 minutes now, and Elena was starting to understand its behavior. This wasn't a simple animal waiting for the right moment to attack. This was an intelligent being trying to figure out what she was doing. The predator made another soft sound, and Elena looked up from her work. The creature's head was tilted to one side, and its eyes were focused on the tool in her hand. Elena realized it was asking a question, even though she couldn't understand the language. This, Elena said, holding up the plasma cutter, this is a tool. I use it to cut through metal. She turned the plasma cutter on for just a second, making a small blue flame appear at the tip. The predator jumped back a little, but didn't run away. Instead, it leaned forward, clearly interested in the strange fire that Elena could control. It's okay, Elena said in a calm voice. It won't hurt you unless you touch it. See? She held the tool away from herself and turned it on again, letting the predator see the blue flame. Inside the ship, the aliens were watching with complete amazement. Commander Coltheta's tentacles had stopped their nervous movements and were now hanging, still as she stared at the screens. She's teaching it, Coltheta said in a voice full of wonder. The human is teaching an apex predator about her tools. Captain Vexhai's compound eyes moved rapidly as he tried to understand what he was seeing. In his species' history, there were no stories of anyone teaching apex predators anything. The idea was impossible. Predators killed, and prey animals ran or died. There was no middle ground. The creature's brain activity has changed, reported the ship's medical officer, a tall, thin alien from the healer caste. It's showing patterns we usually see in young beings when they're learning something new. Elena turned off the plasma cutter and went back to work on the antenna. The predator moved closer, now only about 5 meters away. Elena could smell It now, a wild scent like leather and rain and something else she couldn't identify. You want a closer look, don't you? Elena said without looking up from her work. That's okay. I understand curiosity. I'm curious about you too. The predator took another step closer. Elena could see its claws now, each one as long as her finger and sharp enough to cut through metal. But instead of feeling scared, she felt excited. This creature was choosing to trust her, just as she was choosing to trust it. Elena finished, connecting the third antenna and moved to the main power coupling. This was the hardest part of the repair, and she would need to be very careful. The power coupling was heavy, and she would need both hands to install it properly. She picked up the new coupling and turned toward the main panel. As she did, she dropped her plasma cutter. The tool hit the ground with a loud clank and rolled toward the predator. Elena started to move toward the tool, but the predator was faster. It reached out with one massive claw and carefully picked up the plasma cutter. Instead of destroying it or running away with it, the creature held it out toward Elena. Elena stared at the predator for a moment, hardly believing what she was seeing. The creature was giving her tool back to her. It was helping her. Thank you, Elena said, taking the plasma cutter from the predator's claw. As she did, her gloved hand touched the creature's scaled skin for just a moment. The predator didn't pull away. Inside the ship, the aliens were completely silent. What they had just seen was impossible, according to everything they knew about apex predators. These creatures were supposed to be killing machines, not helpful partners. Did that really just happen? Asked the scanner operator in a quiet voice. Yes, Captain Vexhai said, but he sounded like he didn't believe his own words. Elena went back to work on the power coupling. It was a difficult job that required her to reach into tight spaces and connect several different wires. As she worked, she explained what she was doing to the predator. This coupling controls all the power to the communications array, she said. If I connect these wires wrong, the whole system could explode, so I have to be very careful. The predator moved around to get a better view of what she was doing. Elena noticed that it was being very careful not to get in her way or block her light. It seemed to understand that her work was important. Elena struggled to reach one of the wire connections. Her arm wasn't long enough to get to the back of the panel while still being able to see what she was doing. She tried several different positions, but none of them worked. The predator made a questioning sound and moved closer. Elena looked at it and then at the panel. An idea formed in her mind, one that should have scared her, but somehow didn't. You want to help? Elena asked. Your arms are longer than mine. Could you hold this steady while I make the connection? She showed the predator what she needed, pointing to a heavy component that needed to be held in place. The predator looked at the component, then at Elena, then back at the component. After a moment, it carefully reached out with one claw and held the piece exactly where Elena needed it. Elena made the connection, her hands working steadily while the apex predator held the component in perfect position. When she was done, she patted the predator's arm gently. Perfect, she said. You're a natural at this. The predator made a sound that Elena somehow knew was pleased. It was a softer sound than the questioning noises it had made before, almost like a purr. Elena moved on to the next connection, and the predator continued to help. It held components steady, moved things out of Elena's way, and even used its claws to point to connections that Elena had missed. It was like having the most unusual assistant in the galaxy. Inside the ship, the aliens were recording everything, but they could hardly believe what their instruments were telling them. The apex predator wasn't just helping Elena, it was actively participating in the repair work, using its intelligence to solve problems alongside her. This changes everything we know about apex predators, Commander Coltheta said, her tentacles moving in slow, thoughtful patterns. If they can cooperate like this, if they can learn and teach and help, then they're not just predators, they're people. Captain Vexhai nodded slowly. And if they're people, then humans can make friends with any intelligent species in the galaxy, no matter how dangerous they seem. Elena finished the power coupling and moved on to the final repairs. The predator stayed with her, continuing to help and learn. Elena found herself enjoying the creature's company. It was intelligent, curious, and surprisingly gentle despite its fearsome appearance. You know, Elena said as she worked on the last antenna, I think you're probably the first apex predator to help fix a communications array. That makes you pretty special. The predator made its please sound again and moved closer to watch Elena's final adjustments. When she was done, Elena activated the array's diagnostic system. Lights started flashing on the control panel and the antennas began to move, pointing toward space. The predator watched the lights and moving parts with obvious fascination. When the system beeped to indicate that everything was working properly, the creature made an excited sound and looked at Elena as if asking if the repair was complete. Yes, Elena said, smiling inside her helmet. It's finished. We did it together. The predator made its please sound again, and Elena realized that this moment would stay with her for the rest of her life. She had just shared a work project with one of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy, and it had been one of the most wonderful experiences she'd ever had. As Elena packed up her tools, she noticed that the predator seemed sad to see the work ending. It made questioning sounds and looked from Elena to the communications array and back again. I have to go back to my ship now, Elena explained, but thank you for helping me. I couldn't have done this without you. The predator moved closer and very gently touched Elena's arm with one claw. It was a gesture of friendship, and Elena understood it perfectly. Elena was putting her tools back in their case when she heard new sounds from the jungle. They were similar to the noises her predator friend made, but different too, deeper, more varied. And they were coming from several directions at once. Her predator companion heard the sounds too. Its whole body changed, becoming more alert and tense. The creature turned toward the jungle and made a series of complex sounds that Elena had never heard before. It sounded like it was talking to something. Elena looked toward the trees and felt her heart start beating faster. Yellow eyes were looking back at her from the shadows, not just one pair, but many. The eyes were spread out around the clearing, forming a rough circle with Elena and her friend at the center. Elena, Captain Vexhias' voice came through her helmet's communication system. He sounded more scared than she had ever heard him. You need to get back to the ship immediately. Our scanners are showing 5 more apex predators surrounding your position. Elena looked at her predator friend, who was still making sounds toward the jungle. The creature seemed to be having a conversation with the other predators, but Elena couldn't tell if it was friendly or threatening. I don't think running is a good idea right now, Elena said quietly into her comm. If I move too fast, it might trigger their hunting instincts. Inside the ship, Commander Colfetta's tentacles were moving in rapid, panicked motions. Dr. Martinez, apex predators work together when they hunt. They surround their prey and attack from all sides. You are in the worst possible position. Elena could see the other predators more clearly now as they moved closer. They were all similar to her friend, but each one was slightly different. Some were bigger, some smaller. Some had different colored scales or different patterns. But they all had the same intelligent eyes and the same careful way of moving. Elena's friend stopped making sounds and turned to look at her. For a moment, Elena thought she saw something like worry in the creature's eyes. Then it did something that shocked everyone who was watching. The predator moved to stand between Elena and the largest of the approaching creatures. It spread its arms wide and made a deep, rumbling sound that Elena felt in her chest as much as she heard with her ears. It's protecting her, the medical officer said in amazement. The first predator is actually protecting the human from its own pack. The largest of the new predators stepped into the clearing. It was almost half a meter taller than Elena's friend and covered in scars that told stories of many fights. This was clearly the leader of the group, and its eyes were fixed on Elena with an intensity that made her feel like prey. Elena's friend made more sounds, and the large predator answered back. Elena couldn't understand the words, but she could hear the tone. It sounded like an argument. They're talking about me, Elena realized. My friend is trying to explain me to the others. The pack leader moved closer, and Elena's friend moved to stay between them. The tension in the clearing was so thick Elena could almost touch it. She knew that what happened in the next few minutes would determine whether she lived or died. Elena made a decision that would have seemed in any of the aliens watching. She stepped out from behind her protector and walked slowly toward the pack leader. "Elena, no!" Captain Vexhai shouted through the cum, but Elena had already made up her mind. She stopped about 3 meters from the pack leader and did the same thing she had done with her friend. She stood straight, looked the creature in the eyes, and spoke in a calm, respectful voice. "Hello," Elena said. "I'm Elena. Your friend helped me fix my equipment. I'm not here to hurt anyone or take anything. I just needed to do some work so my friends and I can leave your territory." The pack leader stared at her for a long moment. Elena could see intelligence in its eyes, but also suspicion and the careful evaluation of a natural killer. This creature was deciding whether she was prey, threat, or something else entirely. Elena's friend moved up beside her and made more sounds to the pack leader. Elena could hear something like urgency in its voice, as if it was trying to convince the leader of something important. The pack leader made a questioning sound and gestured toward the communications array with one claw. Elena realized it wanted to know what she had been doing. "I was fixing that," Elena said, pointing to the array. "It sends messages to space. When ships break down, they use equipment like this to call for help." Elena walked slowly toward the array, and both predators followed her. She activated the diagnostic system again, and the lights and moving parts came to life. The pack leader watched with the same fascination that her friend had shown. "See?" Elena said. "It's working now. My friend helped me fix it." The pack leader looked at Elena's friend, then back at Elena, then at the array. Elena could almost see the wheels turning in the creature's head as it tried to understand what it was seeing. The other predators had been moving closer during this conversation, and now Elena could see all 5 of them clearly. They were staying back, but their body language suggested they were ready to attack if their leader gave the signal. Elena's friend made more sounds, and this time the pack leader answered in what sounded like a more thoughtful tone. The argument seemed to be shifting into a discussion. "What are they saying?" Elena whispered to herself, wishing she could understand the predator's language. As if answering her question, the pack leader did something unexpected. It picked up one of Elena's tools that had fallen near the array. Instead of destroying it, or threatening Elena with it, the creature held it up and made a questioning sound. Elena understood immediately. "You want to know what this does?" She took the tool from the predator's claw and demonstrated how it worked. It was a simple wrench for tightening connections, but she showed the pack leader how it could be used to grip and turn things. The pack leader watched carefully, then made a sound to the other predators. One by one, they came closer to see the demonstration. Elena found herself surrounded by 6 apex predators, all of them focused intently on her explanation of human tools. Inside the ship, the aliens were watching in complete disbelief. Captain Vexhai had stopped giving orders and was just staring at the screens. Commander Colfetta's tentacles hung motionless as she tried to process what she was seeing. "She's teaching them," the medical officer said in a voice full of wonder. "She's teaching an entire pack of apex predators about human technology." Elena showed the predators several different tools, explaining what each one did and how it worked. The creatures seemed genuinely interested, making questioning sounds and even trying to use some of the simpler tools themselves. When Elena demonstrated the plasma cutter, all 6 predators made excited sounds. They clearly understood that this tool gave humans a kind of power they didn't naturally possess. But instead of seeing it as a threat, they seemed impressed by human cleverness. Elena's original friend moved closer and made a series of sounds to her. Elena couldn't understand the words, but the tone was unmistakably friendly. The creature was introducing her to its pack. "I think they accept me," Elena said into her cum, hardly believing the words herself. The pack leader made a deep rumbling sound that somehow conveyed approval. It gestured toward the communications array and then toward Elena, as if acknowledging that she had accomplished something worthy of respect. Elena spent the next hour with the pack, showing them more about human technology and learning about their behavior. She discovered that they were incredibly intelligent, with complex social structures and what appeared to be their own form of science. When it was time for Elena to return to the ship, the entire pack escorted her back. They walked with her like honored guards, making sure she was safe until she reached the ship's protective barriers. As Elena stood at the airlock, she turned back to look at her new friends. The pack leader made a sound that she somehow knew meant goodbye, and Elena waved back. "Thank you," she called to them. "Thank you for letting me work in your territory, and thank you for helping me." The predators made pleased sounds in response, and Elena realized that she had just made the most unlikely friends in the galaxy. Elena walked through the ship's airlock and removed her helmet. Her hair was damp with sweat, and her hands were shaking slightly from the excitement of what had just happened. Behind her, through the airlock's window, she could see the pack of apex predators waiting just outside the ship's energy barrier. They sat like patient guards, their intelligent eyes watching the ship with curiosity rather than hunger. The entire alien crew was waiting for her in the main corridor. Captain Vexhai stood at the front of the group, his compound eyes reflecting the ship's lights in a way that showed his confusion and amazement. Commander Coltheta was beside him, her tentacles moving in slow, thoughtful patterns that Elena had learned meant deep thinking. "Dr. Martinez," Captain Vexhai said, his voice coming through the translator with unusual hesitation. "What we just witnessed through our cameras was impossible according to everything we know about apex predators." Elena looked around at the faces of her alien friends. She could see fear, amazement, confusion, and something else in their expressions. Something that looked almost like the way people looked at her when she had done something they thought was magic. "They're not just predators," Elena said, setting down her tool case. "They're intelligent beings. They have curiosity, they can learn, they can cooperate. They're not so different from us." The medical officer, a tall creature with pale skin and large eyes, stepped forward. "Dr. Martinez, your vital signs during the encounter showed stress levels that were actually lower than normal. When most beings face apex predators, their fear response causes heart rate and stress hormones to increase dramatically. But you became calmer, not more frightened." Elena nodded. "Fear wasn't going to help me. These creatures are intelligent. They respond to respect and calmness, not to panic and aggression." Commander Coltheta's tentacles moved faster, showing her distress. "But Dr. Martinez, you must understand what this means for us. For millions of years, our species have known that apex predators are death itself. They cannot be reasoned with, cannot be befriended, cannot be trusted. Our entire evolution is based on avoiding them." "And yet," Elena said gently, "I just spent 3 hours working alongside 6 of them, and none of us got hurt." Captain Vexhai called for an emergency meeting in the ship's main conference room. As the crew gathered around the large table, Elena could see that they were all struggling to understand what they had witnessed. "Let us review what happened," Captain Vexhai said, activating the ship's recording system. Dr. Martinez encountered an apex predator that should have killed her within minutes. Instead, the creature helped her repair our communications equipment. Then, when more predators arrived, they also chose to help rather than hunt. The scanner operator, the small furry creature from the villain species, raised one paw. "Captain, our instruments recorded behavior from these predators that we have never seen before. They showed problem-solving abilities, tool use, and complex communication patterns. But most disturbing of all, they showed what can only be called friendship toward a human." Elena looked around the table at her alien friends. She was beginning to understand that what seemed natural to her was actually terrifying to them. "Why is friendship with predators so frightening to you?" she asked. Commander Coltheta answered, her tentacles moving in slow, sad patterns. "Because, Dr. Martinez, if apex predators can be befriended, if they can be reasoned with and worked with, then everything our species believe about survival is wrong. We have spent millions of years running and hiding from creatures like this. Our entire civilization is built on the idea that predators and prey cannot coexist. But humans coexist with predators all the time," Elena said. "On Earth, we live alongside wolves, bears, big cats, sharks, and dozens of other predator species. Some of them we've even made into companions. The aliens stared at her in silence. The idea of living alongside predators by choice rather than fear was so foreign to them that they could barely process it. The engineering officer, the rocky creature from the silicar species, spoke up. Dr. Martinez, are you saying that humans are not afraid of apex predators? We can be afraid, Elena said, but fear doesn't control us. Humans learned long ago that intelligence and respect can overcome fear. We don't see predators as monsters. We see them as other intelligent beings who happen to hunt for food. Captain Vexhaya's antennae twitched rapidly, a sign of deep confusion. But if humans can befriend apex predators so easily, what does that make humans? Are you predators yourselves? Elena thought about this question for a moment. I suppose we are, in a way. Humans are apex predators on our own world. But we're also more than that. We're apex predators who chose to become something else. We learned to cooperate instead of just compete. The medical officer leaned forward. Dr. Martinez, what you accomplished today suggests that humans might be the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because of your weapons or technology, but because you can make allies out of anyone. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She had never thought of human abilities as frightening before, but she was beginning to see how other species might view them that way. We're not dangerous, Elena said. We just believe that intelligence and understanding can solve most problems. Commander Colfetta's tentacles moved in what Elena recognized as a gesture of respect. Dr. Martinez, with respect, a species that can turn apex predators into friends is perhaps the most dangerous thing in the universe. Not because you mean harm, but because you can accomplish things that should be impossible. Outside the ship, the pack of predators was still waiting. Through the windows, the crew could see them moving around the area, exploring and playing like curious children. The sight was both wonderful and terrifying to the aliens. They're waiting for something, the scanner operator observed. Their behavior suggests they want to continue interacting with Dr. Martinez. Elena looked out at her new friends and felt a warmth in her heart. They enjoyed learning about our technology. I think they want to learn more. This changes everything, Captain Vexhai said quietly. If word of this spreads throughout the galaxy, it will force every species to reconsider what they know about predators, about humans, and about the nature of intelligence itself. Elena stood up and walked to the window. The pack leader saw her and made a sound that she had learned meant greeting. Elena waved back, and the creature seemed pleased. Maybe that's not a bad thing, Elena said. Maybe it's time for the galaxy to learn that fear doesn't have to control us. Maybe it's time to learn that friendship is stronger than fear. The alien crew sat in silence, each of them thinking about what Elena's actions meant for their understanding of the universe. They had seen a human do something that their evolution told them was impossible, and now they had to figure out what that meant. As the stellar dawn prepared for departure, the pack of predators gathered near the ship's landing site. Elena went to the airlock one more time to say goodbye to her friends. The pack leader approached the barrier and placed one massive claw against the energy field. Elena placed her hand on her side of the barrier, matching the predator's gesture. Thank you for teaching me about your world, Elena said. I hope we can meet again someday. The pack leader made a sound that Elena somehow knew meant the same thing. As the ship lifted off, Elena watched through the window as her predator friends stood together, watching her leave. She knew that this moment would change how the galaxy saw both humans and apex predators forever. The aliens had witnessed something that challenged everything they thought they knew about survival, intelligence, and the nature of friendship itself. They had seen a human face the ultimate nightmare and transform it into something beautiful, and they would never forget what that meant about the strange, impossible species called humanity.